Captain Kim Min-jun stood on the bridge of his ship, looking out at the stars. The view never got old. Peaceful human colonies spread across dozens of worlds, each one a small piece of home among the endless black. His crew worked quietly around him, checking reports from the outer systems. "Sir, we have a message coming in from Earth Command," said Lieutenant Park, his communications officer. Kim nodded. "Put it through." The hologram showed Admiral Chen, her face serious. "Captain, we have a situation. A new species has entered our space. They call themselves the Vraktar hegemony." Kim had heard whispers about them from traders and merchants. The Vraktar were an old species, one that had been conquering worlds for thousands of years. Every species they met had two choices: join them or die. "What do they want?" Kim asked. "The same thing they always want," Admiral Chen replied. "Complete surrender. They gave us one standard day to respond." Kim felt his stomach drop. Humanity had spent 200 years building peaceful relationships with other species. They were known across the galaxy as the diplomats, the ones who solved problems with words instead of weapons. Every species respected them for it. "What does the Council say?" Kim asked. Admiral Chen's face grew darker. "They're afraid. The Galactic Council has seen what the Vraktar do to species that refuse. Entire worlds turn to glass. Billions dead. They think we should surrender like everyone else did." Kim looked around his bridge. His crew had stopped their work to listen. These were good people. Humans who had left Earth to explore the stars and build something better. The idea of bowing to alien conquerors made his hands shake with anger. "Sir," said Ensign Lee from the sensor station, "I'm getting reports from the outer colonies. People are asking what to do." Kim thought about the families on those worlds. Children playing in gardens under alien suns. Scientists working to understand new forms of life. Artists creating beauty that had never existed before. All of it could be lost. "Admiral," Kim said, "the President is meeting with the Cabinet now. But I think you know what it will be." Kim did know. Humanity had never surrendered to anyone. They had fought wars on Earth for thousands of years. But they had also learned when to talk and when to fight. The question was whether talking would work with the Vraktar. 3 hours later, Kim got his answer. The transmission came directly to his ship. A Vraktar commander appeared on the main screen. The alien was tall and covered in dark scales. Its eyes were cold and yellow. When it spoke, its voice sounded like metal scraping against stone. "I am War Leader Thokmor of the Vraktar hegemony," it said. "Your species has refused our generous offer of servitude. This is unwise." Kim stepped forward. "I am Captain Kim Min-jun of the Human Defense Fleet. We would like to arrange a meeting to discuss terms." The Vraktar leader made a sound that might have been laughter. "There are no terms. There is only submission or death. Since you choose death, we will provide it." The transmission ended. Kim had barely processed the words when Lieutenant Park shouted from her station. "Sir, I'm getting an emergency signal from Research Station Gamma." The main screen showed a live feed from the station. Kim watched in horror as Vraktar ships surrounded the peaceful research facility. The station had no weapons. It was home to 50,000 scientists, technicians, and their families. "They're hailing the station," Park said, her voice shaking. "Put it through." The station commander appeared on screen. "This is Dr. Harrison at Research Station Gamma. We are a civilian facility with no military value. We have women and children here." The Vraktar response came immediately. "Your species chose war. Now you will learn the cost." Kim watched as the alien ships opened fire. Not quick. Clean shots that would end things fast. Slow. Careful strikes that took the station apart, piece by piece. The Vraktar wanted the people inside to suffer. They wanted them to know death was coming. It took 6 hours for the station to die. 6 hours of screams and pleading, broadcast across human space. Kim's crew stood in silent horror as they watched their people murdered for the crime of refusing to kneel. When it was over, war leader Thakmor appeared on screen again. His yellow eyes seemed to glow with satisfaction. "This is what happens to those who defy the hegemony," he said. 50,000 of your kind have died today. 50 million more will die tomorrow if you do not surrender. Consider this our final mercy." The transmission ended, leaving Kim and his crew in silence. "Sir," Lieutenant Park said quietly, "what are your orders?" Well, Kim looked around his bridge. His people were angry now, not just scared. He could see it in their eyes. Something had changed in those 6 hours. Something important. "Send a message to all human fleets," Kim said. "Tell them to begin evacuation of the outer colonies. Move all civilians to the inner systems." "Sir, are we surrendering?" asked Ensign Lee. Kim thought about the children he had just watched die. He thought about the Vraktar's cold laughter as they killed innocent people. He thought about 50,000 humans who had died for the crime of existing. "No," he said. "We're not surrendering. Send another message to Earth Command. Tell them the Vraktar just made their biggest mistake." Outside the ship's windows, the stars looked different now. Less peaceful. More dangerous. Kim didn't know it yet, but the galaxy was about to learn why humans had tried so hard to solve problems with words instead of weapons. Some doors, once opened, could never be closed again. 3 weeks had passed since Research Station Gamma died. Captain Kim Min-jun had not slept well since then. Every night, he heard the screams of 50,000 people in his dreams. Every morning, he woke up angry. The war had begun immediately after the station's destruction. Human fleets across the galaxy were fighting desperate battles against Vraktar forces. Kim's ship was part of Task Force 7, running hit-and-run attacks on enemy supply lines. They saved who they could, and fought when they had to. But the Vraktar were winning. "Sir, incoming transmission from the Vraktar fleet," Lieutenant Park announced. Kim straightened in his command chair. On screen, War Leader Thakmor appeared, his scaled face showing what might have been amusement. Behind him, Kim could see displays showing human colonies under attack. "Captain Kim Min-jun," the alien said, "your species continues to resist. This is disappointing." "We won't surrender," Kim replied. "Not now. Not ever. Then you will watch your people die. We have taken 12 of your worlds in the past week. Each one fought bravely. Each one died slowly." Kim's hands gripped his chair arms until his knuckles turned white. "What do you want?" "We want your species to understand reality. You cannot win this war. Your fleets are small. Your weapons are weak. Your tactics are predictable. Surrender now, and some of your kind may live as our servants." "And if we refuse?" Thakmor's yellow eyes gleamed. "Then we will demonstrate the fate of all who challenge the hegemony." The transmission changed. Kim found himself looking at a human world called New Sol. 200 million people lived there. It was one of humanity's most beautiful colonies, covered in vast cities and green spaces. "This world will be our example," Thakmor said. "Watch carefully, Captain. This is your future." Kim wanted to close his eyes, but he forced himself to watch. His crew stood behind him in silence as the Vraktar fleet surrounded New Sol. The first attack came from orbit, not quick antimatter bombs that would end things fast. Instead, the Vraktar used something worse: slow plasma burners that heated the planet's surface degree by degree. The planet's defenders fought back, but their ships were outnumbered 50 to 1. Kim watched human fighters throw themselves at the massive Vraktar vessels, knowing they could not win. They fought anyway. It took 2 days for New Sol to die. 2 days of watching cities burn and people flee underground, only to be slowly cooked alive as the planet's surface turned to molten rock. The Vraktar broadcast every moment of it across human space. When it was over, Thakmor reappeared on screen. 200 million of your kind have joined the 50,000 from your research station. How many more must die before you accept reality? 1. Kim stood up slowly. Something cold had settled in his chest during those 2 days. Something that felt like ice in his veins. You made a mistake, he said quietly. Oh? What mistake is that? You let us know what you really are. You're not conquerors. You're not warriors. You're monsters who kill children for pleasure. Thakmor laughed, the sound like grinding metal. All species say this when they realize they cannot win. Your anger means nothing. Your moral outrage changes nothing. You will surrender, or you will die. These are your only choices. There's a third choice, Kim said. What choice is that? Kim smiled, but there was no warmth in it. You'll find out. The transmission ended. Kim turned to face his crew. Every face showed the same expression he felt inside. Cold determination. Something beyond anger. Lieutenant Park, send a coded message to Earth Command. Tell them the vote is unanimous. Sir? Tell them Protocol 0 has been authorized. Kim had hoped never to speak those words. Protocol 0 was something humanity had prepared in secret, long before they met the Vraktar. It was a plan created by people who remembered Earth's darkest wars. People who knew that sometimes diplomacy was not enough. Sir, Ensign Lee said from the sensor station. I'm detecting massive energy signatures throughout human space. Something big is happening. Kim nodded. Yes. Something very big. Rightening. Across human space, hidden bases were powering up. Bases that had been built in secret over decades. Fleets that had never been publicly acknowledged were receiving orders to move. Weapons that were never meant to be used were being loaded onto ships. Humanity had spent 200 years building a reputation as peaceful diplomats. They had worked hard to solve problems with words instead of violence. They had tried to be better than their ancestors who had fought terrible wars on Earth. But underneath all that peace and diplomacy, they had remembered an important lesson from their history. Sometimes, the only way to stop a monster was to become something worse. Sir, incoming message from Admiral Chen, Lieutenant Park announced. The Admiral appeared on screen. Her face showed the same cold determination Kim felt. Captain, your new orders are to proceed to staging area Omega. You'll be part of the second wave. Understood, Admiral. How long until we begin? 72 hours. The Vraktar wanted to teach us about reality. Now we're going to teach them. Kim looked around his bridge one more time. His crew was ready. They had watched their people die for 3 weeks. They had listened to alien monsters laugh about burning children alive. Now it was time for the monsters to learn what happened when they pushed humanity too far. Take us to staging area Omega, Kim ordered. Best possible speed. As his ship turned toward its new destination, Kim thought about the choice his species had made. They could have surrendered. They could have lived as slaves. They could have accepted that some species were just stronger. Instead, they had chosen a different path. A darker path. But sometimes, in a universe full of monsters, the only way to protect innocent people was to become something the monsters feared. The Vraktar had asked for war. They were about to get more than they bargained for. Captain Kim Min-jun stared at the tactical display in disbelief. Staging area Omega was nothing like he had expected. When he had arrived 3 days ago, he thought he was looking at the largest human fleet ever assembled. Now he realized he was looking at something else entirely. Sir, final count is in, reported Lieutenant Park. 16,000? Kim repeated. That's impossible. Humanity doesn't have that many warships. No, sir, Park replied quietly. Humanity doesn't. But apparently, we do. Kim understood the difference. The ships around him weren't part of any official navy. They bore no national flags or colony markings. These were vessels that had been built in secret, crewed by volunteers who had disappeared from public records years ago. A new voice spoke from behind him. Captain Kim. Kim turned to see a woman in an unmarked uniform. She was middle-aged with gray hair and cold eyes that reminded him of winter storms. "I'm Admiral Hayes," she said. "Commanding Officer of Protocol Zero Operations. I need to brief you on your new mission." Kim followed her to the conference room. Inside, displays showed star charts, unlike any he had seen before. The maps showed not just human space, but detailed information about every Vraktar world, base, and fleet position. "How do we have this information?" Kim asked. "We've been watching the Vraktar for 70 years, Admiral Hayes replied. "Ever since we first heard about them from other species. We knew this day would come eventually." Kim studied the maps. 70 years, but we only made contact with them a month ago. "Captain, humanity learned something important during the wars on Earth. The best way to win a fight is to make sure your enemy never sees it coming." Admiral Hayes activated another display. Kim saw ship designs he didn't recognize. Weapons that looked more advanced than anything in the official human navy. While our diplomats were building peaceful relationships across the galaxy, our military was preparing for the species that couldn't be reasoned with. The Vraktar aren't the first monsters we've encountered. They're just the first ones stupid enough to actually attack us. Kim felt cold. "What happened to the others?" "You'll find out soon enough. Your ship will be part of Task Force 7, commanded by Commodore Chen. Your mission is to eliminate the Vraktar supply depot at Keftar Prime." Kim looked at the tactical information for Keftar Prime. It was a heavily defended world with orbital weapons platforms and a garrison of 2 million Vraktar soldiers. "Admiral, my ship is a light cruiser. We can't take on a target like this." Admiral Hayes smiled, but it wasn't a pleasant expression. "Captain, your ship is no longer a light cruiser. It stopped being that the moment you entered this staging area. Report to Dock 7 for your upgrades." 2 hours later, Kim didn't recognize his own ship. The engineering teams had worked with impossible speed, installing weapons and shields that shouldn't have existed. His familiar bridge now contained control stations for systems he had never heard of. "Sir," Chief Engineer Rodriguez reported, "we now have quantum disruptors, phase cannons, and something called reality anchors. I don't even know what half of this equipment does." Kim was beginning to understand. Humanity hadn't just prepared for war. They had prepared for a specific kind of war. The kind where the enemy needed to disappear completely. "Captain Kim." Commodore Chen's voice came over the communication system. "All ships report ready. Task Force 7 will depart in 1 hour." Kim looked around his transformed bridge. His crew was the same, but everything else had changed. They were no longer part of humanity's peaceful exploration fleet. They were something darker now. The mission briefing was simple. Task Force 7 would jump to the Keftar system and destroy everything they found there. Not just the military targets. Everything. "Sir," Lieutenant Park asked during the briefing, "what about civilian populations?" Commodore Chen's expression didn't change. "There are no civilian populations. There are only Vraktar. Our mission is to ensure that when we leave this system, nothing remains that can remember what happened here." Kim understood. This wasn't a battle. It was an execution. The jump to Keftar Prime took 6 hours. When they arrived, Kim saw the Vraktar fleet waiting for them. 50 heavy cruisers and hundreds of smaller ships, all positioned to defend their supply world. "Contact from the Vraktar fleet," Lieutenant Park reported. On screen, a Vraktar commander appeared, his scales marked with the symbols of high rank. "Human vessels, you are outnumbered 5 to 1. Surrender now, and your deaths will be quick." Commodore Chen replied from the flagship. "This is Commodore Chen of the Human Defense Force. You have 30 seconds to evacuate this system before we begin our operation. The alien commander laughed. 30 seconds? Human arrogance will be your destruction. The transmission ended. Kim counted down the seconds. At exactly 30, Commodore Chen's voice came over the fleet channel. All ships, commence Operation Cleansing. What happened next was unlike any battle Kim had ever seen. The human ships didn't charge forward or maneuver for advantage. Instead, they simply opened fire from long range with weapons that shouldn't have worked at that distance. The Vraktar fleet began to disappear, not destroyed in explosions of fire and metal, simply gone, as if they had never existed. The new human weapons didn't just break ships apart, they erased them from reality itself. In 15 minutes, 50 Vraktar cruisers and their escorts had been reduced to empty space. The aliens hadn't managed to fire a single shot in return. Planetary bombardment commencing, came the report from the flagship. Kim watched as the human fleet turned its attention to Keftar Prime. The planet's surface was covered with cities, industrial complexes, and military bases. All of it had been built by the Vraktar over thousands of years. The bombardment lasted 3 hours. When it was finished, Keftar Prime was gone. Not destroyed or damaged. Simply erased, leaving only empty space where a world had once existed. Mission accomplished, Commodore Chen announced. All ships prepare for jump to next target. Kim stared at the empty space where a planet had been. 2 million Vraktar had lived there. Now, there was nothing. No debris. No radiation. No evidence that anything had ever existed in this location. Sir, Ensign Lee said quietly. What have we become? Kim didn't have an answer. Humanity had spent centuries building a reputation as peaceful explorers and diplomats. In 3 hours, they had revealed something else entirely. Something that had been waiting beneath the surface all along. The Vraktar had wanted to teach humanity about reality. Now humanity was teaching them a lesson in return. Some species could be reasoned with. Some could be defeated in conventional warfare. And some species needed to be erased from existence before they could hurt anyone else. Kim's ship jumped to hyperspace along with the rest of Task Force 7. Behind them, the Keftar system was empty and silent. Soon, the rest of the galaxy would learn what happened when someone pushed humanity beyond the point of diplomacy. The lesson was going to be thorough. Captain Kim Min-jun no longer recognized the war he was fighting. 3 weeks had passed since the destruction of Keftar Prime, and Task Force 7 had erased 6 more Vraktar systems from existence. Each time, the process became more efficient. Sir, we're receiving new orders from command, Lieutenant Park announced. Kim read the message on his personal display. Phase 2 was beginning. He had hoped there wouldn't be a Phase 2. All ships, this is Commodore Chen, came the announcement over the fleet channel. We are to proceed to Staging Area Alpha. Admiral Hayes will brief us on the next phase of operations. Kim's ship jumped to hyperspace along with the rest of the fleet. When they arrived at Staging Area Alpha, he understood why Admiral Hayes had seemed so confident. Weeks ago, the staging area contained over 100,000 ships. Not the 16,000 he had seen at Omega, but a fleet larger than anything in recorded galactic history. Ships of designs he had never imagined, armed with weapons that could erase matter from reality itself. Sir, Chief Engineer Rodriguez reported from his station. I'm reading power signatures that shouldn't be possible. Some of those ships are generating energy levels comparable to small stars. Admiral Hayes appeared on the main screen, addressing the entire fleet. Ladies and gentlemen, today we begin the final phase of our operation. The Vraktar hegemony will be completely eliminated from this galaxy. Kim felt a chill run down his spine. Eliminated? Every Vraktar world, every base, every ship, and every individual will be removed from existence. This operation has been planned for 70 years and will be completed within 72 hours. The tactical display showed the scope of what Admiral Hayes was describing. The Vraktar hegemony controlled over 200 star systems. They had ruled an empire for thousands of years, conquering dozens of species and enslaving billions of beings. How is this possible? Kim asked quietly. Lieutenant Park had been monitoring communications from other task forces. Sir, it's not just us. There are fleets like this positioned throughout Vraktar space. They're going to attack everything simultaneously. Kim stared at the display showing Vraktar territory. Every system was marked with human fleet positions. Every world would be hit at the same time. The aliens would have no chance to run, no opportunity to surrender, no time to understand what was happening to them. Attention all ships, Admiral Hayes continued. You may wonder why we are taking such extreme measures. Let me remind you of what this species has done. The display changed to show recordings from the past month. Research Station Gamma. Burning as 50,000 humans died. New Sol, slowly roasting, as its population was cooked alive. Dozens of other colonies destroyed not for military reasons, but simply to cause suffering. The Vraktar chose this path, Admiral Hayes said. They decided that humanity should be enslaved or destroyed. They chose to torture our people for entertainment. They chose to broadcast our children's screams across the galaxy as a warning to others. Kim remembered watching those broadcasts. He remembered the cold satisfaction in Vraktar voices as they described the slow death of human colonies. They had enjoyed it. Today, we remind the galaxy of an important lesson, Admiral Hayes continued. Some lines cannot be crossed. Some actions cannot be forgiven. Some species cannot be allowed to continue existing. The Admiral's image was replaced by tactical displays showing the complete Vraktar empire. Every world, every base, every ship was marked and targeted. Operation begins in 1 hour, Admiral Hayes announced. All task forces will jump simultaneously. No Vraktar will escape this system alive. Kim looked around his bridge. His crew was ready, but he could see the same question in their eyes that he felt in his heart. What had they become? 59 minutes later, Kim's fleet jumped into the Thrakvar system, home to the Vraktar capital world. The planet below held 8 billion aliens and was defended by the largest fleet in their empire. The Vraktar were ready for them. They had received word of humanity's attacks on their outer systems and had prepared for war. Massive battle stations orbited their homeworld. Thousands of ships waited in defensive formations. Every weapon they possessed was aimed at the jump points. It didn't matter. Kim watched as the human fleet opened fire with weapons that violated the laws of physics. Reality itself seemed to bend around their targets. Vraktar ships simply stopped existing, leaving no debris or energy signatures behind. The battle lasted 27 minutes. 8 billion Vraktar died without managing to damage a single human vessel. When it was over, the Thrakvar system was empty space. Reports coming in from all task forces, Lieutenant Park announced. Operations proceeding on schedule. Kim listened to the reports with growing horror. 200 star systems being sterilized simultaneously. Trillions of Vraktar dying in less than an hour. An entire species being erased from the universe. Sir, Ensign Lee said quietly, the Galactic Council is broadcasting emergency sessions. They're demanding that we stop. I'm Lai. Ensign. With Sines, Anbader. Sir Wergenses not Massign. What does command say? Kim asked. Admiral Hayes says the operation continues until completion. No exceptions. Kim understood. The galaxy was watching humanity commit genocide on an unimaginable scale. Every species in known space was seeing what happened when humans were pushed beyond their limits. 3 hours later, it was finished. Final report, came Admiral Hayes' voice over the fleet channel. Operation Cleansing is complete. The Vraktar hegemony has been eliminated. Kim stared at his tactical display. The map that had shown 200 Vraktar systems now showed empty space. Thousands of years of history, culture, and achievement had been wiped away in a single day. "Sir," Lieutenant Park said, "we're receiving a transmission from the Galactic Council." The main screen showed representatives from dozens of species, all looking terrified. Kim recognized the council speaker, a wise old alien who had mediated galactic conflicts for decades. "Humans of Earth," the speaker said, his voice shaking, "what you have done today will be remembered for all time. An entire species has been destroyed." Admiral Hayes responded from the flagship. "The Vraktar chose their fate when they decided to torture human children for entertainment. We offered them diplomacy. We offered them peace. They chose war instead. But complete extinction? Could you not have shown mercy? They were shown mercy for thousands of years, when they chose to spare other species that surrendered quickly. Humanity was different. We refused to kneel, so they decided to make our deaths as painful as possible. They sealed their own fate." The council speaker was quiet for a long moment. "What happens now? Now, the galaxy returns to peace. Other species will be free to develop without fear of Vraktar conquest. The survivors of species they had enslaved will be liberated. And everyone will remember what happens to those who choose to torture innocent people." The transmission ended. Kim looked around his bridge one more time. His crew seemed older now, as if they had aged years in a single day. "Sir, orders are coming in," Lieutenant Park reported. "We're to return to normal patrol duties." "Normal duties?" Kim asked. "Yes, sir." Kim realized that Admiral Hayes was right. With the Vraktar gone, there would be peace. No more species would dare to threaten humanity after seeing what happened to those who tried. But Kim also knew that something had been lost today. Humanity's innocence was gone forever. They could never again claim to be a purely peaceful species. The galaxy would always remember what they were capable of when pushed too far. Perhaps that was for the best. Sometimes, the only way to protect the innocent was to become something the guilty feared. The question was whether humanity could live with what they had chosen to become. Admiral Kim Min-jun stood in his office aboard the flagship of the Third Fleet, watching the peaceful colony world of New Geneva through his window. 5 years had passed since the Vraktar extinction, and humanity had returned to its role as diplomatic peacekeepers. On the surface, nothing had changed. But Kim knew better. "Sir, we have a situation," his aide announced. "The Galactic Council is requesting immediate assistance." Kim turned from the window. "What kind of situation?" "A new species called the Zekthari has entered Council space. They're making territorial demands and threatening military action against anyone who refuses." Kim felt a familiar chill. Another aggressive species. Another potential threat. What do we know about them? They're a warrior culture, similar to the Vraktar in many ways. They've already destroyed 2 small colonies to demonstrate their power. Kim nodded slowly. "Prepare a diplomatic mission. I'll handle this personally." 3 days later, Kim's ship arrived at the neutral station where the Galactic Council met. Representatives from dozens of species had gathered to address the Zekthari threat. The atmosphere was tense with fear. "Admiral Kim," said Council Speaker Veltar, an elderly reptilian who had replaced his predecessor after the Vraktar incident. "Thank you for coming so quickly." "What exactly are we dealing with?" Kim asked. Before the speaker could answer, the main doors opened. A group of tall, armored beings entered the chamber. Their leader was massive, easily 3 meters tall, and covered in what looked like natural armor plating. When he spoke, his voice echoed through the chamber like thunder. "I am War Chief Hektar of the Zekthari Empire," he announced. "We claim this sector of space by right of conquest. All lesser species will submit or be destroyed." Kim studied the alien carefully. The Zekthari leader reminded him uncomfortably of the Vraktar commanders he had faced years ago. The same arrogance, the same assumption that other species would simply surrender. "Perhaps we can reach a peaceful agreement," suggested Speaker Veltar. There is enough space in the galaxy for everyone. War Chief Hector laughed, a harsh sound that made several council members flinch. There is no agreement. There is only submission or death. This is the way of the strong. I Feth. Kim stepped forward. I'm Admiral Kim Min-jun of the Human Defense Force. May I ask what you know about recent galactic history? I know that weakling species gather in councils to beg for protection from their betters. Hector replied. I know that the strong take what they want, while the weak make speeches. What about the Vraktar hegemony? Kim asked quietly. For the first time, the Zekthari leader hesitated. The Vraktar were eliminated by disease, a plague that destroyed their worlds. Kim almost smiled. So that was the story being told in distant parts of the galaxy. A convenient lie that avoided difficult questions about what really happened. Is that what you believe? Kim asked. I believe the strong survive and the weak perish. The Vraktar grew weak, so they died. The Zekthari are strong, so we will rule. Kim looked around the council chamber. Every representative was watching him carefully, waiting to see how humanity would respond. They all remembered what had happened 5 years ago. War Chief Hector, Kim said formally. On behalf of humanity and the Galactic Council, I offer you the same choice we offered the Vraktar. You can withdraw your territorial claims and seek peaceful coexistence, or you can continue on your current path. Are you threatening me, human? Hector snarled. I'm offering you a choice. The same choice every species receives. The Vraktar made their decision, and they faced the consequences. The Vraktar died of plague. No, Kim said quietly. They didn't. The council chamber fell silent. Several representatives shifted nervously in their seats. Everyone knew the truth about the Vraktar, but it was rarely spoken aloud. What are you saying? Hector demanded. Kim activated his personal communicator. A holographic display appeared in the center of the chamber. It showed the systematic destruction of the Vraktar Empire. 200 systems going silent simultaneously. Trillions of beings erased from existence in a single day. War Chief Hector stared at the display in shock. This is impossible. No species has this kind of power. Humanity does, Kim replied. We spent 70 years preparing for species like the Vraktar. Species like you. You're lying. These images are fabricated. Kim's expression didn't change. Computer. Transmit verification codes to the Zekthari ship. Full technical analysis authorized. After several minutes, one of Hector's subordinates whispered urgently in his ear. The war chief's face grew pale beneath his armor. Mon, the data is authentic, he said slowly. Yes, it is. The Vraktar chose to torture human civilians for entertainment. They chose to broadcast our children's deaths across the galaxy. They chose to ignore every opportunity for peace. Kim's voice grew colder. So we chose to erase them from existence. The chamber was so quiet that Kim could hear his own heartbeat. Every representative was remembering that day 5 years ago, when humanity had revealed its true nature. War Chief Hector, Kim continued. You have destroyed 2 colonies and killed thousands of innocent people. By the standards we applied to the Vraktar, your species has already earned extinction. Hector took a step backward. You wouldn't dare. The galaxy would never accept another genocide. Kim looked around the chamber. Not a single representative spoke up to contradict him. They all remembered what happened to species that crossed certain lines. The galaxy learned an important lesson 5 years ago, Kim said. Some lines cannot be crossed. Some actions cannot be forgiven. The Vraktar learned this lesson too late. What do you want? Hector asked, his voice much quieter now. I want you to make a choice. You can withdraw your territorial claims, return to your home systems, and never threaten another species again. or you can continue on your current path and join the Vraktar in extinction. Kim activated his communicator again. Computer? Show current fleet positions. The holographic display changed to show the galaxy-wide deployment of human forces. Massive fleets stationed throughout Council space, ready to respond to any threat. As you can see, we've been preparing for this conversation, Kim said. The choice is yours, War Chief. Choose carefully. Hector stared at the display for a long time. His subordinates whispered among themselves, clearly terrified by what they had learned. Finally, the War Chief spoke. The Zekthari. Withdraw our territorial claims. We will return to our home systems and seek no further expansion. Excellent choice, Kim replied. And War Chief? Make sure your people remember this conversation. Teach them about the line they cannot cross. Hector nodded stiffly and left the chamber with his delegation. The council representatives sat in stunned silence for several minutes. Admiral Kim, Speaker Veltar said eventually. Was that necessary? Yes, Kim replied. Peace requires that aggressive species understand the consequences of their choices. The Vraktar didn't understand until it was too late. The Zekthari were smarter. Kim left the council chamber and returned to his ship. As they departed for human space, he thought about the choice his species had made 5 years ago. They had sacrificed their innocence to become the galaxy's ultimate deterrent. It was a heavy burden, but someone had to carry it. Someone had to be willing to do terrible things to protect innocent people from monsters. Sir, his aide reported. We're receiving reports from across the galaxy. Several aggressive species are suddenly withdrawing territorial claims and seeking peaceful negotiations. Kim nodded. Word would spread quickly about what happened in the council chamber. Every species would learn about the line that could not be crossed. Sir, there's also a message from Earth Command. They want to know if we'll need to activate Protocol Zero again. Kim looked out at the stars. Somewhere out there, the Zekthari were returning to their home worlds with a new understanding of reality. Other species were making similar calculations, deciding whether territorial expansion was worth the risk of human attention. Tell Earth Command that Protocol Zero remains on standby, Kim said, and remind them of something important. What's that, sir? The Vraktar were the last species that challenged humanity. They were erased from existence. Everyone else learned from their mistake. Kim's ship jumped to hyperspace, carrying its crew back to peaceful human space. Behind them, the galaxy continued its quiet existence, secure in the knowledge that monsters like the Vraktar could never threaten innocent people again. The lesson had been thorough. The galaxy would not forget it. And in the depths of space, the massive human fleets waited patiently for the next species that needed to learn about lines that could not be crossed.